Joining me now from Nashville, Tennessee, economic analyst, hedge fund manager, and contributor to Forbes and other publications, Thomas Landstreet. Tom, to me, this is just a free market move made by a corporation that is trying to protect its shareholders, trying to protect its bottom line. I'm going to date myself here, but it's not unlike Ford many decades ago with the Pinto, right? You had all these crashes going on. No one knows what I'm talking about under the age of 40 here. But you had all these crashes going on with the Ford Pinto. And Ford said, hey, you know what? I think we need to take care of this product and maybe move away from the Ford Pinto and get these vehicles off the road. Not unlike what Walmart is doing here in a preemptive strike.
Or a few years ago with Tylenol. Remember the tainted Tylenol?
Right.
They didn't know what it was like a strange killer coming. They didn't know what to do, so they took it off the shelf. There's nothing wrong with that. Apparently, this has a lot to do with THC, however, and I don't think Walmart's in the weed business yet, although they might be someday, I guess, again, if they're free market, like you say. But it's obviously a good move. People are dropping like flies. It's terrible, and they need to get a hold of it.
But with the federal government, I know I get a lot of emails on this, but I think this is a role for the federal government to investigate and figure out what's going on here, if there's maybe just a coincidence or if there's actually something going on. Now, speaking of the free market, over the last week in particular, the Federal Reserve had to pump a bunch of short-term money to banks. And banks, a lot of people don't know this, but overnight they lend each other money based on collateral. Well, all of a sudden the interest rates went up and these lending occurrences dried up along with them. Now, it seems to me, Tom, this is a bit of a red flag in terms of bank liquidity. Am I wrong on this?
You're 100% right. It's kind of something you and I have been talking about. Remember, we talked about the sheer high number of Treasury issuances that had the Treasury auction schedule, the amount of bonds the federal government has to sell to basically deal with our current account deficit, which is exploding at $1 trillion annually. That's a very big deal. So basically, they've overwhelmed the capacity for banks and others to buy those treasuries. Liquidity dried up very rapidly, and we're in a period of time where there's so much debt in the system. Graham, as we've talked about it, 60% of NASDAQ companies have junk bond rated debt. Ford was downgraded to junk recently. The average rating of the S&P 500 companies is now BBB. That's just a notch above junk. And the federal government's running massive deficits. It's a very, very tenuous situation. And I believe the fact that the New York Fed had to bail out the repo market is a sign that they're going to have to return to quantitative easing sooner rather than later. It's going to be a massive reversal, Graham, and a big embarrassment for the Fed. We have too much debt, by the way, made possible by easy money coming all the way back from 08 and 09, Bernanke and Yellen and company. So it's treacherous. And as you know, I'm mildly more bearish than you are. Actually, I'm terrified.
Well, but that's, there's a two-edged sword there as well. When you talk about quantitative easing, it's kind of like the economic heroin that's been put out there on the markets. And at some point, we're going to have to return to economic reality, because the laws of economics always trump the laws of politics, which often seem to be governing what we're doing in the so-called free market right now. Thomas, thank you.
Want to see more videos like this? Click on the link below and subscribe to One America News on YouTube, and call your cable provider and kindly demand that One America News is added to your lineup. Call and subscribe today.